The BP oil spill, otherwise known as the Deepwater Horizon spill in the Gulf of Mexico spill, began on the morning of April 20th at approximately 9:45 Central Time or 8:45 our time. It occurred on BP Oil's MODU, which stands for Mobile Offshore Drilling Unit, 40 miles south of the Louisiana coast. High-pressurized methane gas from the well shot up and out of the drill column. It then expanded, combusted, and exploded. Much effort was put into putting out the inferno, but after 36 hours of burning, it sank the morning of April 22nd, 2010. They were originally unsure if any oil was being leaked from the explosion, but on the afternoon of the rig sinking, an oil slick was visible. The Deepwater Horizon, which is the name of the MODU, was owned by Transocean, one of the world's largest offshore drilling contractors, and being leased to BP until 2013. During the time of the disaster, cement casing was being made and cemented. Casing is a pipe that is installed into a recently drilled section of borehole, shaft dug into the ground, and is held by cement. The casing's purpose includes to prevent unstable upper formations from caving in and sticking the drill string. It provides a strong upper foundation, provides zonal isolation, which is isolating different zones that may have different pressures or fluids. It seals off high-pressure zones from the surface, avoiding potential for a blowout. And lastly, it prevents fluid loss into or contamination of production zones. Accounts of safety and inspection weren't very in-depth and, according to the Associated Press, examinations were, for the most part, brief, extremely lax, and with poor record-keeping. The oil gushed for 3 months, with many different strategies being used to try to stop it. The first one attempted, and the seemingly most obvious, was to close the blowout preventer, which should have activated automatically but did not. Underwater robots were also used to try to manually turn it off, but that did not work. Other attempts included fitting caps on the well, clogging it, using containment systems that use pipes to pump some of the oil to vessels, sealing the well through the static kill procedure, and drilling relief wells. Brief timeline for the attempts goes as follows. In early June, a containment cap was put on to stem the well, to which part of the oil was sent to the Discover Enterprise vessel. In mid-June, a second containment system was installed. By early July, they were calculated to be catching 25,000 barrels a day. They had performed static kill procedures which allowed them to control pressures in parts of the well with mud they were drilling in, later being sealed by cement. And July 12th was the day a new sealing cap was installed, which led to the well integrity test on the 15th. The cap's 3-ram capping stack was shut off, effectively closing the well in all subsea containment systems, but wasn't officially sealed permanently until September 19th. But just because the oil is no longer pouring into the Gulf of Mexico definitely does not mean everything is done and finished with. The estimation for the amount of oil spilling varied greatly when the leak first started. On April 24th, the day after the Deepwater Horizon sunk, it was estimated by BP and the United States Coast Guard that 1,000 barrels were being leaked per day. The latest and most accurate official estimate states that it was leaking 62,000 barrels, or 22,604 gallons per day, which is 62 times the first estimate. By the end of the leak, the amount of oil spilled had amounted to about 4.9 million barrels, or 205.8 million gallons, making this the largest accidental marine spill in the history of the petroleum industry, and has also been dubbed the greatest environmental disaster in U.S. history. It's hard to envision the size of the spill, so here are some ways to view it. When it was first estimated that 184 million gallons of oil was spilled, CNBC did a report helping to visualize that amount of oil. An easy way to envision it is with 1-gallon milk jugs. 184 million of them, set side by side, would cover an area of approximately 1.36 square miles. That means every resident of the 12 most populated U.S. states, or 2/3 of the population of the country, could all carry one in their hand simultaneously. The spilled crude oil was measured in Olympic-sized swimming pools. It could fill 279 of them to overcapacity. If they were put from end to end, that would be more than 8.6 miles long at a depth of 6 feet 7 inches. Old Faithful, the geyser in Yellowstone National Park, shoots up 8,400 gallons in over as much as 5-minute period. It only shoots it for a short amount of time and can take up to 91 minutes before erupting again. If it instead spewed all the oil from the spill, it would leak for about 76 days, 1 hour, and 23 minutes at full strength, non-stop. Here's an estimate of the spill in the Gulf, and this is hypothetically how large it would be if it originated in Hanna, Alberta. Enough oil was spilled that it could have powered 674,563 U.S. homes for an entire year, meaning that's how much potential energy was lost. BP has taken the most amount of responsibility for the situation and has been paying dearly. So far, the amount they have paid to individuals and businesses is $3,678,406,861. To the government on advances, funding requests, and claims, they have paid $1,123,871,204. And to government entities and others, $1,379,375,446. All of that together so far amounts to a grand total of $5,057,782,307. Unfortunately, BP Oil is the biggest loser in this situation. The impact on the environment is very great. Giant oil plumes in the Gulf are integrating and are posing as a big long-term threats to the marine life. One oil plume was as large as 10 miles, or 16 kilometers long, 3 miles, or 4.8 kilometers wide, and 300 feet, or 91 meters in depth. The effects aren't just on the surface, though. They can go as deep as the ocean floor. It was found by a research team that a considerable amount of deposition is being layered on the ocean floor atop of dead shrimp and other organisms. The sediment is believed to be a product of organisms that have broken down the oil and then secrete the oily mixture. It is around 2 inches thick for miles in all directions, and closer to the wellhead are up to 5 times as thick. Much cleanup is underway and will be for a long time. Skimming the surface, controlled burnings of the crude oil, and spraying dispersants are the most popular methods. There are other modes of restoration that are being tried, including using oil-eating microbes. Bacteria can break down oil without harming oxygen levels, which is a problem when disposing of oil. But they may pose a health risk and may be connected with rashes. On the beaches and shorelines, crews are working to remove any signs of oil. Groups called STAT, or Shoreline Cleanup Assessment Team, patrol daily. And then there is the local wildlife. Over 400 species have been affected negatively by this environmental disaster. 7,000 birds, turtles, and dolphins have been found dead or debilitated. Sea turtles, a delicate species, have been recently found stranded twice as much as normal. The number of dolphins are still being harmed, but not as badly. Birds were the worst hit, with the most impacted species being the gannet. The oil affects a wide spectrum of the surrounding wildlife. Birds covered in oil suffer from hypothermia because they aren't able to regulate their body temperature. It doesn't help that the oil slicks make the water look calmer, causing them to dive right in. Plankton, an organism very low in the food chain that many others rely on, are being killed off by chemically dispersed oil. All 4 species of sea turtle are either threatened or endangered, and this degrading towards their numbers will make restoration attempts much harder. Shellfish, such as shrimp, are stationary and therefore don't move away from the oil, leaving them vulnerable to the toxins. The fish larvae cannot survive in the oil, so it is greatly affecting fish numbers, especially those spawning. Many programs are on for capture and releasing of harmed wildlife. There's only so much that can be done with such a large, widespread catastrophe. May BP's mistakes that were caused by wanting to save time and money be warning to future generations.